Welcome to the Bill Cartwright Show with Steve Cohen. Our special guest today is Mr. Michael Blank. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Bill. Honored to be here. Appreciate you having me.
You know, it's really amazing, and we'll get into this earlier, the diversity of you as an athlete. Before we get into that, talk about a little bit where you grew up, and I want you to talk a little bit about your mom and dad.
Yeah. So I grew up in Stockton, California, big family. I'm one of 11, big mixed family. I was actually adopted when I was 5. So I'm part of a big blended family and grew up in a household where I shared a room with 4 boys for, well, about 8 till I was 18. Really, I was in a bunk bed. I don't share that with too many people, but that's the reality. We were in a little house in Stockton. So I got adopted to a great mom, great dad that raised me and taught me some really nice things and right from wrong and some valuable lessons that, allowed me to move on as a student, go to college and obviously as a coach now. So.
Can you talk a little bit about yourself? What kind of kid you were in high school? Because when I read that, I thought, man, what do we got? Is this Jim Thorpe here?
I have been called the D3 Bo Jackson, but I was nowhere near Bo Jackson. In high school, I played football, basketball, baseball, and did some track as well. And
all right, now where was that at?
That was at Franklin High School in Stockton, California. So I got to play a lot of sports. My mom was a teacher at the school I went to. No tennis. Although I enjoy tennis now, if anybody's up. So I played a lot of sports. My mom worked at the high school I was at. She had a very close eye on me at all times, and it was fun. Obviously the best part about sports is your teammates and being on a team with a bunch of different people and interacting, having friends. And I was a little confused because I was probably the best at baseball, got my attention for football, and loved basketball the most. So I ended up being pretty average at everything. But great time, great memories. And as you guys know, some of my best friends have come through the game of through sports.
So talk about that. Talk about you're getting ready to graduate from high school. What are you thinking? What are you thinking college-wise?
Yeah. So again, I was getting on a lot of attention for football. I was the quarterback. I was leading the area in passing. I actually worked with the same guy, Kaepernick, and some of the better NorCal quarterbacks worked with, Roger Theater. I had a pretty good career, good numbers, really good team. To be honest, I just threw a lot of screen passes to my running back and go for 80 yards, and I'd get those. So it was great. So recruiting was up and down. Nevada was kind of around, Fresno was around. And as you know, with the recruiting process, it goes hot, then it goes cold. And my mom gave me an ultimatum. She said, you either need to get all your schooling paid for or you're going to the military. This was 2002, right around the time we were entering Iraq. And I just didn't want to go to Iraq, to be honest with you. I like sports. I liked school. So I get a call from the school called Willamette University. I had never heard of it. At the high school I'd been at, the athletes had gone on to USC, Fresno State, San Jose State, Cal, the like. And this guy shows up, and he's a football coach. They call me down to meet him, and a guy by the name of Mark Speckman sitting in the office. Now, Mark Speckman is a football coach. He's the head coach at Willamette University, and this guy doesn't have any hands. He's got nubs. And he's sitting here telling me that he was an All-American linebacker at Azusa Pacific, and he's a quarterback's coach, and that, I should go play Division III football. And I'm just like, I'm getting punked. Like, this can't be real. What is going on? And he gets to talking, and he hooked me a little bit, but he really hooked my mom. And you know the deal. Once that happens, it's over. So mom signed off on it. They gave me a very good financial aid package that allowed me to go there. Obviously, I didn't come from much. So lo and behold, I was off to Willamette University. I did throw in the caveat that I wanted to at least be able to go out for basketball, and they allowed me to do that. So I was all in. Off to Salem I went.
So talk about your senior year there. Um, and talk about what were you thinking you wanted to do as a career as you left there?
Yeah, I was pretty naive, even at a good academic school like Willamette. I thought, my phone would be ringing with job opportunities because people had told me how good of an education Willamette was. And I just knew the moment I graduated, I'd have 5 or 6 job offers. And that didn't happen. The pro thing, that came to fruition quick. About my sophomore, junior year, I realized that wasn't a reality for me. Since nobody in our league had been drafted in like 30 years or something like that. So I had to go out and interview. I had to hit the ground running. I had this big long afro, and my first like job interview was for Nike. It was like being a towel boy on Nike at the Nike campus. And I cut my hair. I was all prepared, and I go there and I just bombed the interview because, they asked me, hey, what is it about Nike that you want to be a part of, our brand? And I'm like, it's Nike. They have great shoes and it's a great brand. And obviously they didn't want to hear that. They want to hear you want to be a part of a team. You want to be a part of a culture and build up your brand and help us build up our brand. And I didn't get the job. It was like handing out towels at the Bo Jackson facility, one of their workout facilities. And I didn't get the job. And I was just like, what is going on? I have a Willamette education and I can't get a job handing out towels at Nike. And so that was kind of my welcome into the real world quick. So I thought, hey, I better coach.
Where did that coaching come from? Did you have somebody who inspired you, or you felt like obviously that's something that you could do?
Yeah, my football coach and basketball coach, because they were asking me what my plan was after graduation. And I said, I'm going to go back to Stockton and kind of figure it out. And they're like, you really want to go back to Stockton? And I was like, I just don't know what else I'm going to do. And they said, well, why don't you stay here and coach for us? I got a job in the school district helping at-risk youth. And I started coaching and recruiting, and I loved it. While I was a player, I would host a lot of the players on their visits and was part of the recruiting process. And I really enjoyed that, because I was recruiting to something that I believed in at the school that I had gone to. And it was an easy sell for me, and I can do it without trying too hard. So I ended up being decent at it and recruiting and helping the football team with receivers and just kind of helping the basketball team with the guards. And that kind of started my career.
So talk about your first full-time coaching job.
Yeah, first full-time coaching job was Casper, Wyoming. So I was a graduate assistant at USF for Rex, and then after that year, I went to Casper, Wyoming. And
let's back up on that. Let's talk about that a little bit because,
okay.
as you know, Rex is a bit of a character.
Yeah,
Talk about some of the lessons that you learned from Rex.
I learned a ton. I got an opportunity from Rex coming from Willamette. He didn't know me. We had a mutual friend on staff, Michael Lee, one of the assistants, who I had helped him with a kid at some point in time. He was recruiting Avery Holmes, actually, that ended up going to USF, then transferring to Clemson. But Rex, I flew down there. I was kind of touring different spots. I met with Rex. I kind of told him my story, where I'm from, and he kind of opened the door for me to be around. And it was like a volunteer role. And I loved Rex. He kind of gets a bad rap, but Rex was very direct in what the expectations were and what his expectations were. There was no gray area with him. And for me, that was great because I knew what I needed to do clearly. There was clear instructions. So I got my butt chewed occasionally for different things. I'd miss layups during a transition drill or something, and he'd get after me pretty good. But I learned so much from him and really valued that year coaching with him.
So you go from there to Wyoming. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a different place.
Yeah. Yeah. I packed up my Nissan Sentra and I drove on out to Casper, Wyoming. I split it up in 2 days, stopped in Salt Lake, and was at Casper College as an assistant coach at a national junior college. And it was my first like full-time gig. It wasn't full-time pay, but it was full-time work. And I taught 2 classes. I taught racquetball and I taught methods of coaching basketball. Um, I didn't know much about racquetball, so I would Google a lot during class and take breaks. But we figured out a way to make it work, and got a chance to coach. And national junior colleges are a little different. We had 15 full ride scholarships. We were flying kids in, had a nice booster club. It was pretty well funded. And then when they got there, they were well taken care of. So we would recruit globally, really, but mainly all over the U.S. and got exposed to different kids and from different areas of the country. And it was a really beneficial year for me.
Sorry, talk about two things. Now, who was the coach there? And talk about your best player there.
Yeah, so the coach there was Dan Russell. Dan Russell was now an assistant coach at Montana State University. And he was like, I don't know, he's maybe like 4 or 5 years younger than me. But we had met when he had come out to San Francisco to visit. And, you know, he offered me a job. And like most jobs I've been offered, I said, heck no at first, and then thought about it and, you know, got some feedback from some people I'm close with about, you know, does this make sense, and ended up doing it. And then our best player probably was Jay Wright. He ended up going to Louisiana Lafayette, starting guard there for them, and then playing in the G League some. But he was being recruited by quite a few schools, which was helpful for me because I got to interact with a lot of college coaches and develop relationships through all those guys' recruiting process. And ultimately, being out there and the relationships I built landed me at Portland State as an assistant. They really wanted to recruit that league that Casper's in, and I was an assistant there and developed real good relationships. I was able to land an assistant coaching job at Portland State.
Talk about the coach there and give me a guy you really liked as a player there.
Yeah, Tyler Gemming was the head coach there, and I had known him kind of just through the business a little bit, just being around the Northwest. And one of the players I really like, I would probably say Isaiah Pinheiro. He's one that sticks out. So he started in junior college at Sierra, and then came to me at Portland State and didn't have much, and had a nice season at Portland State, and then transferred to the University of San Diego, redshirted there, and ended up being a first team all-league player 2 years in a row for USD on some pretty good teams. One of the first guys I recruited from the Sacramento area, actually went to Sierra, and had a nice career there. He was also a football player, but he's still playing pro. He started for the Puerto Rican national team, and now he's over in, I believe, Turkey. He's got a nice career ahead of him.
Talk about your next stop after Portland.
Yeah, Portland State was good, and my next stop after that was I was the head EYBL coach for a Nike travel team in Portland called the Portland Basketball Club, and this was good because we were on the EYBL circuit, which, as you know, is a very talented circuit. We went 2-14. The 2 teams we beat was RJ Barrett's team out of Canada, and then Emmett Matthews' team, I think, out of like Florida or Texas. They were pretty good. So we beat some lottery picks, which is an every game experience there. And that opened up a lot of doors as well, just because I was, you know, I had a lot of good players on my team and developed relationships with different coaches and helped those guys get recruited. And that was super beneficial for me.
Okay, so you're there. So what are you thinking now? What's your next step?
Yeah, so the plan was to get back into college. That's kind of where I wanted to go, but I actually ended up coaching Greg Foster Jr. He joined our team kind of late. His dad, Greg Foster Sr., played in the NBA. He's assistant coach in the NBA. You probably worked him out a few times. I'd imagine you had some nice games against him. Do you remember any of that?
He's a little bit younger than me, but I remember him best when he was at Utah when we played him for a championship. So you kind of know how
Yeah.
that worked out.
Yeah. So I coached his son, and his son did really well in the summer for us and ended up signing to Gonzaga. He always gave me some credit for it, and I had nothing to do with it besides being the coach. But he kind of asked me, he said, what are you thinking? Let me know how I can help you. I was like, I'd love to be in the NBA, and even if it's in a volunteer role, whatever, just be around. And he was working for Jason Kidd in Milwaukee at the time. So he kind of talked to Jay Kidd and basically said, "Hey, I got this guy. I'm gonna bring him out here, and he wants to be around." So in a roundabout way, it worked out where I was kind of hanging around the Milwaukee Bucks for a while, and got to kind of be a fly on the wall, be in meetings, help out in practice, and be around. And it was an awesome time. Giannis was there and was still kind of developing. It was, I think, the year before his MVP year, and got to experience that for a little bit. And Jay Kidd obviously got let go, and he was all of our ticket over there, so it didn't work out. But that was an awesome, short-lived experience being in the league for a little bit.
I understand. So after you're there, what are you thinking?
Yeah, come back home to San Francisco City. My wife's from San Francisco, so we moved back here, and we're going to sort things out, kind of like coaches do. And in the meantime, I work a full-time job with the Boys and Girls Club of San Francisco. I'm working over in Hunters Point at Carver Elementary School. So I go from the Milwaukee Bucks to kindergarten through fifth grade. Um, yeah, that was quite the change. And then coaching at San Francisco City, Justin LeBeau, Adam DeQuisto, those guys nice enough to let me on their staff. Fabulous program over there, and we ended up going 31-2, something like that, losing in the state championship, unfortunately, but heck of an opportunity. And again, was back on the coaching scene and developing relationships, nourishing former relationships, and had an opportunity after that to go with Kyle Smith up to Washington State. And a big part of that was just being visible in San Francisco. I'd go check his practices out. I always kept in touch, and he knew I had roots to the Northwest, and it's kind of just the perfect storm timing wise, and worked out.
So I'm assuming because of USF's close relationship to Kyle, that's how you got here.
Yeah, so I had known Todd and some of those guys previously, when they came over here from Columbia. And so I had relationships with Coach Hubdy and Coach Golden and the whole staff, really, and then familiarity with USF. But after my 2 years as the recruiting coordinator at Washington State, I was locked in there. I really wasn't even thinking about leaving. One thing I learned in the business is I was just really, really focused on being the best recruiting coordinator I could be and staying real present in that role, for Washington State. And lo and behold, after our second year, I had a couple opportunities come up at Division I programs to go be an assistant. And, San Francisco was one of them, and it made the most sense. It was a return home. My wife is a USF alum of the nursing school. My family's in Stockton. Her family's in Daly City, and it just made a ton of sense. And we were really grateful and packed up the U-Haul and moved on down.
Stevie.
I just think I'm very impressed with your ability to adapt to whatever situation you are, right? It seems like you bloom wherever you're planted, you make the most of it, and you stay in touch with people, and you just have a very positive attitude about wherever you are, right? Like you make the most of wherever you are. Could you explain how you developed that mindset?
Yeah, I appreciate those words. I think it is just a part of my upbringing. I spent a little bit of time in foster care for a year. I spent a little bit of time in a children's shelter. And then I got adopted to a new family. And, you obviously don't pick those things, but it happens and you have to figure it out. And my mom she was a real stickler, and there was no excuses in our household. It was, you're going to do well. You're going to figure it out. It doesn't matter what, what issues arise. You're going to work through it and figure it out. And she was really of the figure it out mindset. She didn't stress a whole lot. And I kind of take on some of those characteristics because, when things don't go well, it's kind of what we have to do is just figure it out and stay really present in the current environment you're in and do the best job, you can where you're at. Usually when that happens, good things follow.
Well, one thing though, I think everybody in their career and anybody who's listening to this, I think might want to get your perspective on is, okay, so you were a very effective recruiter, right? And then you probably could have said, okay, let me keep doing that, keep aces in their places, and stay there, and you're comfortable doing it. So then, you have to have enough gumption to say, you know what, I want to try something else and move on to do it. So is that really what happened? I mean, because it gives you a sense of security when you're that good at it, at Washington State.
Yeah, no, was super comfortable there. I mean, it's a college town, and like Coach Smith says all the time, it's a place that really loves you up and embraces you. And they did that to me and my family, and could have been there a long time. But definitely wanted new challenges. The new challenges. San Francisco was coming off of an up and down season, and it was a chance to be an assistant and expand my role on the court, and obviously on top of recruiting. And there's a coaching aspect that I like to do, and I was going to be able to do here. I'm fortunate to help Coach Golden with the defense. So it was a new challenge. Like I said, more responsibility, more pressure, which, as you advance in your career, that's what I want, is more responsibility, more pressure, and see what happens.
Hey, can you talk about our current USF team? Tell me, with the assumption that you really like them, because I do, but tell me why you like them and why we're going to be successful this year.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of our team. Obviously, I get to coach them every day, but we're kind of built for anything. We can turn the ball over 20 times and still win by double figures. Our best player can have an okay game and we can still win by double figures. Our bigs, different people can get in foul trouble, and we have enough depth. I think is really the bread and butter for us is when we get into our bench, our 7, 8, 9, 10th guys are pretty dang good. I mean, we're bringing a Pac-12 transfer off the bench. He's like our 9th, 10th guy, and we've got an honorable mention all league guy that's, like our 8th guy currently. So we have some really good depth. We can play big. We can play fast. We can play in the half court. We can get up and down. And at the end of the day, we can guard anybody. We're going against this preseason thus far, smaller, faster teams whose biggest guy's 6'7", and could be 4 or 5 guards out there. And we figure out a way to guard them and defend them and out rebound them. And, once we start taking care of the ball, which we did a little bit last night, I think we had 11 turnovers. I kind of put the number at 12. If we can get under 12 turnovers with the way we guard, I think we can really, really be successful night in and night out.
I think it's exciting, but I guess you just talked about defense, and defense, when people talk about coaching defense, they always talk about effort, and do you think that it is a question of just effort?
Yeah, our effort has been, we play really hard. Like I get texts after games and people say, man, you guys play really hard. And I think as a cohesive unit, talked about the depth, and we got 10 guys that all get into the game that raise their effort and their attention to detail. We're able, like I said, to have, the success we've had thus far. We have to build upon it. Obviously we have bigger challenges ahead, but when the effort's there, and we're locked in defensively and on the glass like we have been. Pretty tough team to beat.
You talked about a little bit. Can you talk about your family, wife, kids?
Yeah, I'm married to a USF alum. Her name's Tina Plank. She's a nurse. We have a 2-year-old daughter named Mila, who is actually at school right now. I'm gonna pick her up, and then we're off today. I went in earlier to get some Morgan State stuff ready, but I'm gonna pick her up. We're gonna go to the zoo and see some animals and run around a little bit. So I'm a father, which has been great, and a husband, which has been great as well.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to meet her. She's full of fire. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. No, she's starting to figure some things out. She was in the locker room at Davidson, and she heard a not so nice word that one of the coaches said in a positive way, and she repeated it, and she's been saying it nonstop. Starts with the F and does something else after that, but she was fired up about that. She likes winning. She's a competitor, and she's only 2. So,
Oh boy. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate it. We're really excited about this year. You guys are doing a great job, and we're just looking forward to spending more time with you.
yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.